All right, friends, today we're going to be talking about the artist Chris Uphues, and we're going to be creating our own drawing inspired by his murals. So what you're going to do today is we're going to be using hearts to draw our shapes to start out with. And with our hearts, we want to make sure that we're filling the space up so that our eyes are looking all the way around the page. If I place all my hearts on one side of the page, then you're not going to want to look on the other side of the page. So one thing I want you to think about is space. The second thing I want you to think about is size. Our eyes like when things are different throughout our artwork. So if all our hearts were the same size, that's really boring to our eyes. So you want to have some small hearts and some big hearts. And then the third last thing I want you to think about, I will tell you after we do the first two. So we're thinking about space and size. So if your heart shapes are a little different, some are stretched out, some are wide, that's okay. You can draw your hearts having different lines in them. They don't have to be perfect. That will add character to your work. So the way you have your paper's up to you. I'm going to do it the horizontal way, but if you want to go the other way, you can. You're going to go in and start wherever you want with your pencil. Okay, I'm going to draw heavy so you can see in the video, but when you're drawing at your table, draw very lightly. So I'm going to start with a medium-sized heart. Then maybe over here I'll do, on the other end, a smaller heart. And notice how I'm working around the page and I'm doing different sizes. So now that I've got that, I'm going to go over here. So go ahead and do about 5 to 6 hearts on your paper. All right, friends, so there's that. So it's missing something, and this is the third thing that you need to think about. So right now, I think I did a pretty good job with balancing it and thinking about the space in my paper. They're pretty spread out, and the size is pretty good as well. What else you want to think about now? There's something going on in this that I don't have in mind that I just did. Do you think you can figure out what's missing in the one that I just drew? Is there anything going on here that you do not see in yours? Okay, so some of these hearts are overlapping each other, and that's going to create even more space. It looks like this one's coming forward on top of this one, and that's going to add another element to your work to make it interesting. So how we do that, and the word overlap is when one shape goes on top of another. So very, very lightly with your pencil, you're going to find a spot on your paper to draw a heart, very lightly. And you're going to do it so that when you draw it, it goes into the other heart. Now, in order to make it look like one is on top of the other, you're going to have to erase part of the shape. So if I want to make it look like this one is on top of the small one, I'd have to draw this curve of the little one to make it look like this is on top of this. But if I want the small one to look like it's on top of the big one, I have to then erase this part. So figure out what part you want, which shape you want to look like it's coming forward. I would like the little one to look like it's coming forward, so I'm going to erase the parts inside the little heart that do not belong to it. So I'm going in and I'm erasing, and this is why you need to draw really light, because if you don't, it's going to be really hard to erase that. Okay. Now I'm going to do some more because I want to, again, move my eye around. So I can even do some that just sit right on top. Okay, maybe I'll go in and do another one over here. All right, and now I want it to look like this big one is going on top of this one. So I'm going to erase any part of this small heart that goes into the big one. So if I erase this part, now you'll see it looks like the big one is on top, but the smaller one is below it. So I just want to pay attention, move my eye around, keep looking, keep experimenting with size. and making sure that I filled the space up. So go ahead and do a couple of overlapping hearts. All right, if you feel like you're really good at this, you can even have some hearts that overlap a few. So if you notice, this one is overlapping a couple of hearts. So I'm gonna go in and make it look like this is on top, and I'm gonna erase any hearts that go inside of it. I'm gonna erase the parts of the hearts that go inside of this one. So I'm gonna go in and I'm going to erase. Perfect, all right. All right, friends, so now that I have that, I'm gonna go in and start to draw some faces on my hearts. You wanna think of the facial parts. You're gonna need a mouth, nose, and eyes. They don't all have to have the same expression. Some can look sad, happy. Think about the eyebrows and expressions and how you're gonna show that. Chris Uphues usually uses basic shapes to make his facial features on his heart. I'm gonna leave some examples for you on the smartboard. You don't have to use them if you don't want to, but they're there for help and guidance. For the eyes, I usually start either with a half circle or a circle, and then for the mouth, I just do different shaped lines. I draw some teeth on some, so go through, give each one a fun and different expression. Okay, I just got done outlining my hearts with Sharpie, so my faces are done. One of the things you might have to be careful with when doing your faces is some areas might be overlapped, so you might not be able to draw all parts of the facial feature of that heart. So for example, this one, its eye would be covered by this heart, so I know I'm not going to be able to draw that. Or this one, I could only draw part of the eye because this is overlapping it. So this is where you're really going to have to think about where your overlaps are and how that affects the shapes you're drawing. So I went in with a Sharpie and I very carefully, slow and steady, went on top of all my pencil lines. So anywhere that I had a pencil, I went right on top. And if I struggled with that, I know for Miss Plummer, I have a few spots where I can see pencil line. Very gently with an eraser, you can go in and just very gently erase anywhere that pencil line is showing. Alrighty friends, so I have my hearts down now. We're gonna start thinking about how we're gonna color these in, and we're gonna think about the negative space, the background, which is the area around the hearts. It's called negative space. We'll start though coloring our hearts, and when you do your hearts, I want you to outline the edge of the shape a little bit harder with your crayon, but then when you go inside it, I want you to push really light. That's going to create different values, and values are a range of dark to light in your artwork. And values are arranged from darks to lights in your artwork. So we're going to have the outside of the heart really dark, but then the inside be light by using different pressures on our crayons. So I typically, for my hearts, I choose really bright colors because that's very similar to Chris's style. And it's also easier for us to color on the Sharpie and have the facial features show if we choose brighter colors. So some of your colors like yellow, you're not going to see if they're really, really light. You're not going to see that value shift very well. So you just have to do your best. I'm going to start with a red, and I'm just going to pick the shapes that are coming forward first and then work my way backwards. So right here I've got this little guy. I'm going to go in, and when you're pressing harder on a crayon, you never want to hold it up here in the middle, because what do you think is going to happen? Right, it's probably going to snap. I like to hold a little closer to the tip, and then I go in, and you don't have to push really, really hard, but I'm going to add just a little bit more pressure around the edge. I'm going to outline it, and then when I go to fill it in, I want to push light. So at this point, if I'm pushing light, sometimes it's better to push your hand back, and this time I can hold it in the middle. It's going to make the color lighter, and it's not going to break the crayon because I'm pushing so light with it. So now the outside edge has a dark value and the inside has a lighter. I still want to take my time with layering the crayon so it doesn't look scribbly messy. All right, now I can do the heart behind him. If you want to color those eyelids in or the mouth, that's totally up to you. I'm going to use purple, and I'm going to go around first, holding it closer to the tip of the crayon, pressing nice and hard to get a dark value. And then I'm going to go inside. And this time I'm pushing really light. I'm moving my hand away from the tip, but I'm still going in little circles like I normally would, back and forth on top of the crayon a few times to create layers so it looks nice and neat. And in art, when things are neat, that's called good craftsmanship. So I'm going to go in now, friends, and I'm going to keep coloring. I want to push hard on the outside, but then light on the inside to get a light and dark value. And you're going to do that until all these hearts are colored in. Now I'm going to show you the yellow. So if I take a yellow like this, and you can use yellow, but you're going to see when you go to outline it and then fill it in, because it's so bright, you might not notice a huge shift in value. And that's just because the color's so light to begin with. It's really hard to get a bunch of value ranges with yellow. So you can use yellow. I just like to let friends know because I always have friends worried that they're not doing it right. It's just the way that yellow works on there. All right, friends, so now that I have my hearts all filled in, I need to think about the negative space. And that is the area behind the focal point or the main objects in my art. So for mine, I did something similar to Chris's mural, and I did some wavy lines behind my hearts. So I want you to think about some kind of wavy line or any type of line that you want to use in your background. So you don't have to do wavy. You could do zigzag, polka dot. You can do a combination of lines, but you want them to move in different directions to help your eyes move around. You want to fill that space up, and guess what's the third thing? You want there to be some overlapping. So all your hearts should go on top of these lines, so you might have to jump around them. So I'm just going to do wavy lines again, but again, you can do zigzags to show you how this is going to work. I'm going to be using crayons for this, but if you have markers at your seat, you can use that as well. So I'm going to pick 3 to 4 colors that I want to use throughout. So choose 3 to 4, and you're going to just start anywhere on your paper. So I'm going to go in the middle first and just do some wavies. And I got to a heart. I have to stop, go around it, and come around, stop. So that way I'm not drawing any lines through my heart. So these hearts should still be your focal point and should pop out. Make sure the lines are going behind them. So I'm going to keep going until I've used up all 3 to 4 colors of my choice. Okay, we want there to be some similarities in these lines, so keeping the colors minimal is best. All right, so I have one there. Now I'm going to maybe do a diagonal, maybe one coming from here. I'm just going to keep going until I've really filled that space up good. All right, friends, I've got my lines. They're all spread out. If you want to think of one shape to also repeat in your background, like I did just short little lines, you're more than welcome to do that, but I think I'm going to leave mine like this. I really like how it came out.